The rain hammered against the conference room windows as Monica Reeves gathered her papers, trying to ignore the raised voices coming from the executive suite down the hall. 3 years as the executive assistant to Vincent Crawford, CEO of Crawford Industries, had taught her to recognize the warning signs of his infamous temper. Tonight felt different, though. The tension in the building had been mounting for weeks, ever since the quarterly reports revealed discrepancies that no one could quite explain. Monica had always prided herself on her professionalism. At 32, she'd worked her way up from a secretarial position at a small insurance firm to landing this coveted role at one of Boston's most prestigious real estate development companies. Her mother, a single parent who'd cleaned offices to put Monica through community college, had cried when she'd heard about the job. The salary alone was more than Monica had ever dreamed of making, but lately, she'd begun to wonder if any amount of money was worth the stress. Vincent Crawford was a complicated man. Brilliant, demanding, and ruthlessly efficient, he'd built his father's modest construction company into a billion-dollar empire by the age of 45. He could be charming when he wanted something, cutting when disappointed, and utterly merciless in business dealings. Monica had seen him reduce grown men to stammering apologies with nothing more than a cold stare. She'd also seen him anonymously donate millions to children's hospitals and quietly pay for his employees' medical emergencies. He was a walking contradiction, and after 3 years, she still couldn't quite figure him out. The shouting stopped abruptly. Monica glanced at her watch. 9:30 on a Thursday night. Most of the staff had left hours ago, but Vincent had insisted she stay to prepare documents for tomorrow's emergency board meeting. She heard footsteps in the hallway. Then Vincent appeared in the doorway of her outer office, his tie loosened, and his normally perfect silver hair disheveled. "I need you to pull the Henderson property files," he said, his voice rough. "All of them, going back 5 years. Monica frowned. The Henderson development was one of their oldest projects, completed and sold off years ago. "Sir, those files are in the archives. It would take me hours to, then you'd better get started." He turned to leave, then paused. "And Monica? Not a word to anyone about this. Not to the other assistants, not to your family, no one." Something in his tone made her stomach clench. "Mr. Crawford, is everything all right?" For a moment, his carefully controlled facade slipped, and she saw something she'd never seen before in his eyes. Fear. "Just get me those files." 2 hours later, Monica was in the basement archives, surrounded by boxes of old contracts and blueprints. The fluorescent lights flickered overhead, and the ancient heating system clanked and groaned in the walls. She'd found most of what Vincent had requested, but one box remained elusive. According to the filing system, it should have been on the 3rd shelf of Section C, but the space was empty. She was standing on a step stool, searching the higher shelves, when she heard footsteps on the stairs. Vincent appeared, looking worse than before. His face was pale, and there was a sheen of sweat on his forehead, despite the chill in the basement. "Any luck?" he asked, his words slightly slurred. "Mr. Crawford, are you feeling all right? You don't look well." "I'm fine. Just tired." He moved toward the shelves, stumbling slightly. Monica jumped down from the stool and reached out to steady him. "You're not fine. When did you last eat?" "This morning. Maybe." He waved her off, but his hand trembled. "The files, Monica. I need those files before tomorrow." "What's in them that's so important?" He looked at her for a long moment, seeming to weigh his options. "Proof," he finally said. "Proof that I'm not the one who's been stealing from this company." Monica's breath caught. The rumors had been circulating for weeks. Millions of dollars missing. Funds transferred to offshore accounts. Projects that existed on paper but never broke ground. The board had been pressuring Vincent for answers, and the whispers had grown louder. Maybe the brilliant CEO had finally gotten too greedy. "You think someone's framing you?" "I don't think, Monica. I know." He swayed again, and this time he didn't protest when she grabbed his arm. "The Henderson project. There were irregularities even back then. I flagged them, documented everything, kept copies. If I can find those files, I can prove that this pattern started long before I had the authority to access those accounts." "Then who—" A loud crash echoed through the basement. Both of them froze. The sound had come from the far end of the archives, beyond the maze of shelving units. Vincent's hand tightened on Monica's arm. "Did you tell anyone you were down here?" he whispered. "No." You said not to. Another sound, softer this time, like boxes being moved. Someone else was in the basement with them. Vincent pulled Monica behind a shelf unit, pressing a finger to his lips. His skin was clammy, and up close, she could see his pupils were dilated. Something was very wrong with him, beyond just stress and exhaustion. They waited in silence, Monica's heart pounding so hard, she was sure whoever was there would hear it. The footsteps came closer, methodical and unhurried. Then, through a gap in the shelves, she saw him. Thomas Whitman, Crawford Industries' chief financial officer. He was carrying a box, the box Monica had been looking for. Judging by the label, she could just make out. Vincent tensed beside her, and Monica grabbed his hand, shaking her head frantically. They were outnumbered, trapped in a basement with only one exit, and Vincent was in no condition to confront anyone. But Vincent pulled away, stepping out from their hiding spot. "Thomas," he said, his voice steady despite his obvious physical distress. "Working late?" Whitman spun around, the box clutched to his chest. For a second, genuine surprise flickered across his face. Then it was replaced by something else. Calculation, Monica thought, or maybe resignation. "Vincent, I didn't expect anyone to be here, clearly." Vincent took a step forward and nearly collapsed. Monica caught him, struggling under his weight. He was a tall man, well over 6 feet, and pure dead weight in her arms. "Vincent!" She lowered him to the concrete floor, her hand going to his neck to check his pulse. It was racing, erratic. "What did you take? What medication?" "Coffee," he mumbled, his eyes unfocused. "Whitman. The coffee." Monica's head snapped up. Thomas Whitman stood 10 feet away, still holding the box, his expression unreadable. "He's been under a lot of stress," Whitman said calmly. "Perhaps he had a panic attack. You put something in his coffee. It wasn't a question." Monica looked down at Vincent, who was struggling to stay conscious, then back at Whitman. The pieces were falling into place with horrifying clarity. "You've been stealing from the company. You're framing him, and when he got too close to the truth, you decided to eliminate him. Such a vivid imagination." Whitman set the box down carefully. "But who's going to believe the assistant over the CFO? Vincent's been acting erratically for weeks. Everyone's noticed. A tragic overdose, perhaps. The pressure of the investigation finally got to him." Vincent's hand found Monica's, squeezing weakly. She looked down at him. This complicated, difficult man who'd given her a chance when others wouldn't, who'd pushed her to be better than she thought she could be, who was, despite everything, a good man in his own flawed way. Monica made her decision. "Help me get him up," she said to Whitman, her voice surprisingly steady. "If you let him die here, it's murder. But if you help me get him to a hospital, you can still disappear. Take whatever's in that box and run. I won't stop you." Whitman studied her for a long moment. "Why would you let me go? Because saving his life matters more than catching you tonight." She met his eyes. "But make no mistake, if you don't help me right now, I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what you did. I'll scream it from the rooftops. Your face will be on every news channel in the country." The silence stretched between them. Vincent's breathing was becoming more labored. Finally, Whitman moved forward. Together they got Vincent to his feet, Monica taking most of his weight. "There's a service elevator at the end of the hall," Whitman said. "Your car in the garage?" Monica nodded. They half-carried, half-dragged Vincent through the basement corridors. He was mumbling incoherently now, words tumbling together. Monica caught fragments, files, proof, mother's ring. By the time they reached the service elevator, she was sweating and shaking from the effort. The elevator ride felt eternal. When the doors opened onto the parking garage, Whitman helped her get Vincent to her modest Honda Civic. As she was arranging him in the passenger seat, Whitman spoke quietly. "For what it's worth, I never wanted it to come to this. He was a good boss once." Monica straightened, turning to face him. "Then why?" "Because good doesn't pay for a daughter's cancer treatment when your insurance denies the claim." His face was hollow in the harsh garage lights. "Because desperation makes monsters of us all." Before she could respond, he was gone. disappearing into the shadows of the parking garage. Monica stood there for a moment, her hands shaking, then got into her car. Vincent was slumped against the window, his breathing shallow. She started the engine, her mind racing. Massachusetts General Hospital was 15 minutes away. She could get him there, get him help. And then what? Let Whitman escape? Let him get away with stealing millions, with attempted murder? Monica pulled out of the parking garage into the rain-soaked streets of Boston. At the first red light, she looked over at Vincent. His face was gray, his lips tinged with blue. She picked up her phone, finger hovering over the emergency call button. That's when she saw it. Vincent's phone, fallen from his pocket onto the passenger seat. The screen was lit up with a message notification. She shouldn't look. She knew she shouldn't. But something made her pick it up, and what she saw made her blood run cold. The message was from Vincent himself, sent 2 hours ago to an unknown number. Transfer complete. $50 secured. Make sure Whitman takes the fall. Everything is going according to plan. Monica's hands tightened on the steering wheel, her knuckles white in the glow of the traffic light. The phone felt like it was burning her palm. She read the message again, certain she must have misunderstood, but there it was, crystal clear. Vincent Crawford wasn't the victim she'd thought he was. The light turned green. Behind her, a car honked. She accelerated automatically, her mind spinning. Nothing made sense. If Vincent was behind the theft, why had he sent her to find files that would expose him? Why had Thomas Whitman been so desperate to retrieve that box? And most confusing of all, why had Vincent seemed genuinely afraid? Beside her, Vincent groaned, his head lolling against the window. Whatever was in his system, it was real. The poisoning wasn't fake. Monica merged onto the highway toward Mass General, her nursing training from community college, abandoned when her mother got sick, kicking in as she monitored his breathing. Monica, Vincent mumbled, his eyes fluttering open. Don't trust who? Vincent, stay with me. Who can't I trust? But he'd slipped back into unconsciousness. Monica pressed harder on the accelerator. Whatever Vincent was, thief, victim, or something more complicated, he needed medical attention now. She could figure out the rest later. The emergency room at Mass General was relatively quiet for a Thursday night. Monica half-carried Vincent through the automatic doors, shouting for help. Within seconds, nurses surrounded them with a gurney. As they transferred Vincent onto it, a young doctor fired questions at her. What did he take? I don't know. I think someone put something in his coffee. His CFO... Monica stopped herself. How much should she say? He collapsed about 20 minutes ago. Rapid pulse, sweating, dilated pupils, confusion. Any medical history we should know about? Monica realized she had no idea. 3 years as his assistant, and she didn't know if Vincent had diabetes, a heart condition, allergies. She knew his coffee order, his schedule, his preferred dry cleaner, but nothing that mattered right now. I'm just his assistant. I don't know his medical history. They were already wheeling him away. A nurse handed Monica a clipboard. We'll need you to fill out what information you can. Insurance details, emergency contacts. Monica stood in the middle of the ER, still holding Vincent's phone, her own phone, her purse, and now a clipboard. She felt like she was in a dream, everything moving too fast and too slow simultaneously. She found a plastic chair and sat down heavily. Emergency contact. She knew Vincent had a sister in California, Andrea Crawford Morrison. They weren't close. Vincent had mentioned her maybe twice in 3 years. His parents were both deceased, no wife, no children. Monica scrolled through Vincent's phone contacts with shaking fingers, found Andrea's number, and dialed. The woman who answered sounded groggy. This better be important. Do you know what time it is in San Diego? Ms. Crawford Morrison, my name is Monica Reeves. I work for your brother. He's in the hospital, Mass General in Boston. He collapsed, and the doctors think he may have been poisoned. The silence on the other end lasted so long, Monica thought the call had dropped. Then, is he alive? Yes. They're treating him now. And you're sure it was poison? Not just Vincent being Vincent. Working himself into exhaustion? The bitterness in Andrea's voice caught Monica off guard. I'm certain. I was there when it happened. Another pause. I'll catch the first flight out. Don't let them release him until I get there. Of course, and Ms. Reeves, be very careful who you trust. My brother has more enemies than friends, and sometimes it's hard to tell which is which. The line went dead. Monica stared at the phone, Andrea's warning echoing in her mind. She looked down at Vincent's phone again, at that damning message. Her thumb hovered over the screen. She should look at more, try to understand what was really going on. But that felt like a violation, even now. Instead, she called the one person she trusted completely. Her best friend Jamie, a paralegal at a downtown law firm. Jamie answered on the third ring, sounding wide awake despite the late hour. Mon, everything okay? Monica gave her the abbreviated version. Vincent's collapse, the hospital, finding him unconscious. She left out Thomas Whitman, the stolen files, and the suspicious text message. Holy hell, Jamie breathed. Are you safe? Do you need me to come get you? I'm fine. Just shaken up. Jamie, if I needed to talk to a lawyer, hypothetically, about something I might have witnessed at work, would your firm handle that? Hypothetically? Jamie's tone sharpened with concern. Monica, what did you witness? I can't say yet. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. Okay, cryptic much? But yes, we have employment lawyers who handle whistleblower cases. Why do I feel like you're about to tell me your billionaire boss is a criminal? Because you watch too many legal dramas, Monica said, trying for lightness and failing. I need to go. They're calling me. She hung up before Jamie could press for more details. A different nurse was beckoning her to the desk. Monica gathered her things and walked over. Mr. Crawford is stable, the nurse said. The doctors pumped his stomach and started him on activated charcoal. They're running a full toxicology panel. Whatever he ingested, he's going to be okay, thanks to you getting him here so quickly. Relief flooded through Monica, so intense it made her dizzy. Can I see him? Not yet. He's still unconscious. But you saved his life tonight, Miss Reeves. Another hour and... She didn't finish the sentence. She didn't have to. Monica nodded numbly and returned to her plastic chair. She had saved Vincent's life, the man who might be a thief, the man who might be framing his CFO, the man whose phone contained evidence of a $50 million transfer. She needed to think. She needed to understand what she'd stumbled into. Monica pulled out her own phone and opened her email, accessing her work account. If Vincent was involved in financial crimes, there would be traces in the documents she'd prepared for him. She'd been so focused on doing her job well that she'd never questioned what she was filing, what she was organizing, what patterns might be emerging. She started with the Henderson Project files, the ones Vincent had been so desperate to find. She'd downloaded digital copies months ago as part of a general backup project. Opening them now, she began to read with new eyes. The Henderson development had been a luxury condominium project in Cambridge, completed 7 years ago. On the surface, everything looked legitimate, but as Monica dug deeper, she started to see irregularities. Invoices from contractors that didn't quite match the work orders, payments to consulting firms that she couldn't find any record of, and there, buried in a subfolder she'd never had reason to open before, she found something that made her breath catch. An email chain between Vincent Crawford and Thomas Whitman, dated 6 months before the Henderson project broke ground. In it, they discussed setting up a shell company to siphon funds from the project. They laid out the entire scheme with chilling clarity, how they'd inflate costs, create fake vendors, and split the profits 50-50. Monica felt sick. Vincent and Thomas had been partners all along. They'd stolen together, built their fortunes together on fraud. So what had changed? Why were they now enemies? Why had Thomas tried to kill Vincent? She kept reading, scrolling through years of emails. The partnership had lasted through 3 major projects. Then, 2 years ago, the tone of the correspondence shifted. Vincent wanted to stop. He'd written to Thomas, "We've made enough. Any more, and we risk exposure. I'm out." Thomas's response had been ice cold. "You don't get to develop a conscience now. We're in this together all the way. Try to leave, and I'll make sure you go down for everything, alone." The war between them had been quiet but vicious. Vincent had started documenting everything. building a case against Thomas. Thomas had responded by continuing to steal, this time keeping all the profits and setting up the evidence to make it look like Vincent was acting alone. Each man had enough to destroy the other, locked in a terrible stalemate. Until tonight, when Thomas had decided to eliminate Vincent permanently. Monica looked up from her phone, her mind reeling. Vincent Crawford was a criminal, but he'd tried to stop. He'd tried to make things right, in his own way. Did that excuse what he'd done? No, but it complicated the simple narrative she'd constructed. A police officer walked into the ER waiting room, and Monica's heart seized. Had someone reported the incident? Did they already know about the poisoning? But the officer walked past her without a glance, heading to the desk to deal with a drunk driver who'd been brought in. Monica made a decision. She stood up, walked to the bathroom, and locked herself in a stall. She opened Vincent's phone again. She'd figured out his password months ago. He used his mother's birthday for everything, and began taking screenshots. Every incriminating message, every damning email, every piece of evidence she could find. She sent them all to her personal email address, then deleted the sent messages from Vincent's phone. When she emerged from the bathroom 10 minutes later, she had enough evidence to put both Vincent Crawford and Thomas Whitman in prison for a very long time. The question was, what was she going to do with it? Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "We need to talk. Come to the parking garage. Level 3, come alone, or Vincent dies." Monica's blood ran cold. She looked around the ER, suddenly aware of how vulnerable she was. How had they found her? How did they know she was here? Then she remembered Vincent's phone. It had GPS. If Thomas Whitman had access to Vincent's accounts, he could track the phone's location. She'd led him right to her. The nurse at the desk was busy with paperwork. The police officer was still dealing with the drunk driver. Monica could scream for help, show them the threatening text, demand protection. But the message said Vincent would die. Was there still someone at the hospital who could hurt him? Or was this a bluff? She thought of her mother, who'd taught her that doing the right thing wasn't always the easy thing. She thought of Vincent, unconscious in a hospital bed, who'd given her a career and a chance at a better life. Even if his money was dirty, she thought of Thomas Whitman's desperate face in the basement, because desperation makes monsters of us all. Monica walked toward the elevator that led to the parking garage, her hand gripping her phone so hard it hurt. She'd saved Vincent's life once tonight. She might be about to throw away her own, but she had to know the truth. She had to see this through to the end, whatever that end might be. The elevator doors closed, and Monica pressed the button for level 3. Her reflection staring back at her from the polished metal doors. She barely recognized the woman looking back, determined, frightened, and absolutely certain that nothing would ever be the same again. The parking garage was nearly empty at this hour, the concrete structure echoing with the hum of fluorescent lights and the distant wail of sirens. Monica stepped out of the elevator onto level 3, her heart hammering against her ribs. The air smelled of motor oil and rain, cold and metallic. She clutched her phone in one hand, the other balled into a fist at her side. "Hello?" Her voice bounced off the concrete pillars, sounding smaller than she'd intended. "I'm here. Show yourself." For a long moment, nothing, then footsteps, slow and measured, coming from behind a white delivery van. Monica tensed, ready to run. But the figure that emerged wasn't Thomas Whitman. It was a woman, late 50s, impeccably dressed in a charcoal business suit despite the late hour, her silver hair pulled back in a severe bun. She had the kind of face that commanded boardrooms, sharp and intelligent, with eyes that assessed and calculated in a single glance. "Ms. Reeves," the woman said, her voice crisp with a Boston Brahmin accent. "Thank you for coming. I apologize for the dramatic summons, but discretion is essential." Monica stayed near the elevator, finger hovering over the emergency button on her phone. "Who are you? How do you know my name?" "My name is Patricia Donnelly. I'm the head of the audit committee for Crawford Industries Board of Directors." She took a step forward, hands raised peacefully. "I've been investigating the financial irregularities at the company for the past 6 months, and I believe you may have stumbled into the middle of something very dangerous. If you're on the board, why are we meeting in a parking garage? Why not call the police?" Patricia's smile was thin, "Because I don't know which police to call." This investigation goes far beyond Vincent Crawford and Thomas Whitman. There are people in the district attorney's office, in the mayor's office, who have been receiving payments from shell companies connected to Crawford Industries for years. If I go to the wrong person, evidence disappears, and witnesses go silent, or worse. Monica felt the ground shifting beneath her feet again. You're saying this is corruption at the city level? State level, possibly federal. Vincent and Thomas started small, skimming from construction projects, inflating costs, but then they discovered they could get permits faster, avoid inspections, win bids they shouldn't have won. All it took was sharing some of their ill-gotten gains with the right people. Patricia moved closer, her expression softening slightly. I know you found something tonight. I know Vincent sent you to the archives for the Henderson files. What did you see? Monica hesitated. Every instinct screamed not to trust this woman, but those same instincts had told her to trust Vincent, and look where that had gotten her. I saw Thomas Whitman take a box of files. I saw him poison Vincent, and I saw evidence on Vincent's phone that he's been stealing millions. Did you see the message about the $50 million transfer? Monica's eyes widened. How did you? Because that message is a fake, Ms. Reeves. It was planted on Vincent's phone 3 hours ago by someone with sophisticated hacking capabilities. Patricia pulled out a tablet from her leather briefcase and tapped the screen. Look at the metadata. The message shows it was sent at 7:45 tonight, but the digital signature shows it was actually created at 8:15, 30 minutes after it allegedly was sent. Someone wanted you to find that message. Someone wanted you to think Vincent was the mastermind. Monica took the tablet with shaking hands. The technical details were beyond her, but the timestamps were clear. The message was fabricated. Thomas Whitman planted it. Thomas Whitman is many things, but he's not a hacker. No, this required professional help. The kind of help that costs serious money and has serious connections. Patricia's face grew grim. I believe Thomas was working with someone else. Someone higher up the food chain who's been using Crawford Industries as their personal piggy bank. When Vincent started trying to extricate himself from the scheme 2 years ago, this person saw an opportunity. Frame Vincent, eliminate Thomas, and take complete control of the company. Who? Monica demanded. Who's behind this? Before Patricia could answer, the screech of tires echoed through the garage. A black SUV came around the corner, moving fast, too fast. Patricia grabbed Monica's arm and yanked her behind a concrete pillar just as the vehicle roared past. So close, Monica felt the wind of its passage. The SUV screeched to a halt 20 feet away. The driver's door opened, and Thomas Whitman stepped out. But he looked nothing like the composed man from the basement. His face was bruised, blood dripping from a cut above his eye. He was limping. Run, he gasped, staring at them with wild eyes. Both of you need to run, right now. Thomas, what happened? Patricia started toward him, but he held up a hand. They know. They know you've been investigating, Patricia. They know Monica has the evidence. They're cleaning house. He swayed, clutching his side. I tried to run. Got as far as the airport. They were waiting for me. I barely got away. Who's they? Monica asked, though ice was forming in her stomach. She thought she was beginning to understand. Thomas looked at Patricia. Your partner on the audit committee, Richard Sterling. Patricia went pale. No. Richard and I have worked together for 15 years. He's the one who convinced me to start this investigation in the first place, because he wanted to know how much you knew. He's been feeding you information to keep you looking at Vincent and me, to keep you distracted from the real operation. Thomas leaned heavily against the SUV. Sterling's been embezzling from Crawford Industries for a decade. Vincent and I were amateurs compared to him. When Vincent got a conscience and wanted to stop our little side business, Sterling saw his chance. He approached me, said he'd help me frame Vincent, take full control of the company. I was desperate. My daughter's medical bills were crushing me. I agreed, but you tried to kill Vincent, Monica said, her voice hard. No. Thomas's denial was fierce. I was supposed to slip him something to make him sick, disoriented. Something that would make him look unstable at tomorrow's board meeting. Help sell the narrative that he'd had a breakdown. Maybe embezzled money in a moment of crisis. Sterling gave me the drug, told me it was a mild sedative. But it wasn't. It was something much stronger, potentially lethal. Sterling was trying to kill Vincent and make me the murderer. Patricia pulled out her phone. We're calling the police. Right now. We'll go to the FBI, the state police. There's no time. Thomas straightened despite his obvious pain. Sterling knows Vincent's alive. He knows you're here, Patricia. I saw his people following you. He's going to move against all of us tonight. As if summoning by his words, another vehicle entered the parking level, a sleek gray sedan. It moved slowly, predatory. Monica felt Patricia tense beside her. That's Sterling's car, Patricia whispered. The sedan stopped. The engine continued running, but no one got out. They were trapped. The elevator behind them, Sterling's car blocking the only exit, Thomas too injured to be much help in a fight. Monica's mind raced. She still had Vincent's phone. She had the screenshots she'd sent to her email. She had evidence of everything, the original crimes, the frame job, all of it. But evidence meant nothing if they were all dead. The hospital has security cameras, Monica said suddenly. The parking garage, the ER, everywhere. If something happens to us here, there will be footage. Sterling can't erase all of it. He doesn't need to erase all of it, Thomas said grimly. Just enough to muddy the waters, make it look like a tragic accident or a robbery gone wrong. The sedan's door opened. Richard Sterling emerged, and Monica recognized him immediately. She'd seen him at board meetings, a distinguished man in his 60s with a politician's smile and a firm handshake. He looked every inch the successful businessman, respectable and trustworthy, which made him all the more dangerous. "Patricia," he called out, his voice warm and friendly. "I've been trying to reach you. When I heard about Vincent's hospitalization, I came right away. We need to discuss how to handle the press." Patricia stepped out from behind the pillar, her spine straight. "Stay where you are, Richard." His smile didn't falter. "My dear, you're being paranoid. Mr. Whitman has clearly filled your head with nonsense. The man is a confessed embezzler, desperate to deflect blame. You can't possibly believe— "I believe you've been stealing from Crawford Industries for 10 years, Patricia said clearly. "I believe you manipulated Thomas Whitman into poisoning Vincent Crawford. I believe you've been paying off city officials to look the other way, and I believe you're here right now to silence everyone who knows the truth." Sterling's smile finally faded. For a moment, his mask slipped, and Monica saw the cold calculation underneath. "Proof, Patricia. Do you have any proof of these wild accusations?" Monica held up Vincent's phone. "Metadata analysis of the planted messages. Email chains documenting the original embezzlement scheme. Bank records showing transfers to offshore accounts. Wire transfer receipts to city officials." She was bluffing on some of it, but Sterling didn't need to know that. "And it's all backed up in 3 separate locations, with instructions to be released to the FBI, the Boston Globe, and the Wall Street Journal if anything happens to any of us." It was a gamble. Monica had sent the screenshots only to her personal email, but Sterling couldn't know that for certain. Sterling studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed, a genuine sound that echoed through the concrete structure. "You're lying, but I admire the attempt." He pulled something from his jacket pocket. Not a gun, as Monica had feared, but a phone. "You're right about one thing, Ms. Reeves. The hospital does have security cameras. But did you know I sit on the hospital's board of directors? I have access to their security systems. And I've just sent a text to a very capable individual who's currently in Vincent Crawford's hospital room, disconnecting his monitors. In approximately 3 minutes, unless I send a cancellation code, your boss will die. So let's talk about what you're going to do with that phone." Monica's blood turned to ice. She'd been so focused on saving herself that she hadn't thought about Vincent lying unconscious and vulnerable. She looked at Patricia, at Thomas, but saw the same helpless realization on their faces. "You're bluffing," she said, but her voice wavered. Sterling checked his watch. 2 minutes, 30 seconds. "Give me the phone, Ms. Reeves. Give me the phone, and Vincent lives. You all get to walk away from this. I'll even let Patricia continue her little investigation. I'll just make sure she never finds anything actionable. Everyone wins. Except the people you've stolen from," Monica said. "Except the city that's been paying for your corruption. Except every honest contractor who lost a bid because you rigged the system. 2 minutes." Sterling said pleasantly. Monica thought of her mother, who'd cleaned offices and broken her back so Monica could have a better life. She thought of Vincent, difficult and complicated, but trying in his own flawed way to make things right. She thought of all the choices that had led her to this moment, standing in a parking garage at midnight, holding evidence that could bring down a powerful man. She thought of the message she'd sent to Jamie earlier, the one about needing a lawyer. Monica pulled out her own phone and pressed call. Jamie answered immediately. "Mon? What's wrong?" "Jamie, I need you to do exactly as I say. Open your email. I sent you files tonight. Download them all, right now, and send them to your firm's senior partner. Tell him it's evidence of a major corporate fraud case, and that I'm currently in the Mass General parking garage level 3 with Richard Sterling, who's threatening to kill Vincent Crawford unless I give him this phone. Tell him to call the FBI immediately and send them here. And Jamie? If something happens to me, make sure those files get to every news outlet in the city. Promise me." Monica, "Oh my God, yes, I promise I'm opening them now, but please." Monica hung up. She looked at Sterling, whose pleasant expression had frozen. "Your move, Mr. Sterling. You can kill Vincent, kill all of us, and still go to prison. Or you can walk away right now and pray your lawyers are better than the federal prosecutors who are going to come for you." Sterling's face had gone white, then red. "You're bluffing. You didn't send anything." "1 minute," Monica said, checking the time on her phone. She was shaking so hard she could barely hold it steady, but she kept her voice level. 58 seconds until you become a murderer. Is it worth it, Mr. Sterling? Is any amount of money worth spending the rest of your life in prison?" The silence stretched out, broken only by the hum of the idling cars and Monica's racing heartbeat. In the distance, she heard sirens. Whether for them or for some other emergency, she couldn't tell. Sterling looked at each of them in turn, his expression unreadable. Then he got back in his car. "This isn't over," he said through the open window. "Yes," Patricia said quietly. "It is." The gray sedan reversed, turned, and disappeared down the ramp. For a moment, no one moved. Then Thomas collapsed against his SUV, sliding down to sit on the concrete. Patricia let out a breath that seemed to deflate her entire body. And Monica started crying, great heaving sobs of relief and terror and adrenaline crash. Her phone rang. "Jamie." "Mon, the FBI is on their way. They said to stay where you are, not to move, not to touch anything. Are you okay? Please tell me you're okay." "I'm okay," Monica managed. "Jamie, I'm okay." She wasn't sure if it was true, but Vincent was alive, Sterling was running, and somewhere in the night, sirens were getting closer. For now, that was enough. The FBI arrived in force. 3 black SUVs and 2 unmarked sedans that filled the parking garage with flashing lights and armed agents. Monica found herself wrapped in a blanket despite the mild September night, sitting in the back of an ambulance while a paramedic checked her vitals and a sharp-eyed agent named Torres took her statement for the 3rd time. "Let me make sure I understand," Agent Torres said, her pen poised over her notepad. "You discovered your boss had been embezzling with the CFO? The CFO tried to kill your boss. You saved your boss's life, discovered evidence of a larger conspiracy, and then confronted the actual mastermind in a parking garage. Does that about sum it up, Ms. Reeves?" When she put it like that, it sounded insane. Monica nodded anyway. "That's about right. And you're an executive assistant. No law enforcement training, no investigative background. I took some nursing courses in community college," Monica offered weakly. "And I'm very organized." Agent Torres's mouth twitched with what might have been amusement. "Well, your organizational skills may have just cracked open the biggest municipal corruption case Boston has seen in 2 decades. Richard Sterling was picked up at Logan Airport trying to board a private plane to the Cayman Islands. We've been building a case against him for 8 months, but we couldn't get enough evidence to move forward. What you handed us tonight, that's everything we needed." Monica looked across the parking garage to where Patricia Donnelly was speaking with another group of agents, her posture ramrod straight despite the night's events. Thomas Whitman had been taken to the hospital, his injuries requiring immediate attention, but an armed guard outside his room. "What happens to Thomas? And to Vincent?" "That's complicated," Torres admitted. "Whitman cooperated tonight, which will count in his favor. He's looking at conspiracy charges, possibly attempted murder depending on what he knew about the poison's lethality. But with a good lawyer and his cooperation, he might avoid serious prison time. As for Crawford, she consulted her notes. His involvement in the original embezzlement scheme is clear, but he also attempted to stop it and documented everything. The U.S. attorney will have to decide how to proceed. He'll face charges, certainly. Whether he sees prison time is another question. Monica felt a strange mix of emotions. Vincent Crawford had broken the law. He'd stolen, lied, participated in corruption, but he'd also tried to make it right. And in some twisted way, his crimes had led to exposing something much larger and more dangerous. "Can I see him?" Monica asked. "Vincent, I mean, is he awake?" Agent Torres checked her phone. "He regained consciousness about 20 minutes ago. There's an agent with him, but I can clear you for a brief visit. Just remember, anything he says to you isn't protected by attorney-client privilege. If he confesses to crimes, we'll need you to testify." Monica nodded and followed Torres back into the hospital. Her legs felt like rubber, and she realized she hadn't eaten since lunch, nearly 12 hours ago. Everything had taken on a surreal quality, as if she were watching herself from a distance. Vincent's hospital room was on the 4th floor, guarded by a stern-faced agent who checked Monica's ID before letting her pass. Inside, Vincent was propped up in bed, an IV in his arm, and monitors beeping softly. He looked terrible, pale and drawn, with dark circles under his eyes, but those eyes were alert and focused when they landed on her. "Monica." His voice was hoarse. "They told me what you did, how you saved my life." She pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down heavily. "You're welcome, though I'm not sure you're going to thank me when you hear the rest. I know about Sterling." The FBI agent was quite thorough. Vincent's hand moved restlessly on the blanket. "I'm sorry, Monica. For all of it. For dragging you into this mess. For the lies. For..." His voice broke. "For being exactly the kind of man my father always said I'd become." Monica had rehearsed what she would say during the elevator ride. She'd planned to be cold, professional, to treat him like the criminal he was. But seeing him like this, broken and ashamed and frighteningly vulnerable, she found her anger softening into something more complicated. "Why did you do it?" she asked quietly. "The embezzlement. You had everything. Your father built this company from nothing and left it to you. Why risk it all?" Vincent was quiet for a long moment. "My father built the company, yes. But he did it through intimidation, bribery, and cutting corners. When he died, I inherited his empire and his methods. Thomas Whitman came to me 5 years ago with suggestions for how we could increase our profit margins. I knew what he was really suggesting. And I said yes, because that's what my father would have done. That's what I'd been trained to do." He looked at her with hollow eyes. "I thought I was continuing his legacy. I didn't realize until too late that I was continuing his sins. But you tried to stop. 2 years ago, you wanted out. I saw what we were becoming, what I had become. My mother, before she died, she made me promise I'd be better than my father. I'd broken that promise so completely." He swallowed hard. "I started documenting everything, building a case. I thought if I could expose the corruption, help the authorities clean up the construction industry, maybe that would count for something. Maybe I could make her proud, even posthumously. That's why you needed the Henderson files. Those files proved Sterling was involved from the beginning. He was the one who introduced Thomas and me, who suggested we could all profit together. When I tried to back out, he threatened to destroy me. So I decided to destroy him first." Vincent's laugh was bitter. "Except I wasn't as clever as I thought. Sterling was always 3 steps ahead." Monica pulled Vincent's phone from her pocket and set it on the bedside table. "The FBI has copies of everything. The emails, the fake message he planted, all of it. You're going to face charges, Vincent. You know that." "I know." He looked at the phone, then back at her. "Monica, you could have let me die tonight. In the basement, in the car, at any point. You could have walked away from all of this. Why didn't you?" She'd been asking herself the same question. Because despite everything, you gave me a chance when no one else would. Because I've seen you do good things, even if they were funded by dirty money, because..." She paused, searching for the right words. "Because people are complicated. You're not just the sum of your worst choices. That's more grace than I deserve." "Probably," Monica agreed. "But we don't always get what we deserve. Sometimes we get what we need instead." A soft knock interrupted them. Agent Torres stepped into the room. "Ms. Reeves, there's someone here who wants to speak with you." Monica followed Torres back to the waiting area, where a tall, elegant woman in her early 50s stood by the window. She turned at their approach, and Monica recognized her immediately from photos in Vincent's office. Andrea Crawford Morrison, Vincent's sister. "Ms. Reeves," Andrea said, extending her hand. "I caught an earlier flight. I heard what happened tonight, what you did for my brother." Her handshake was firm, her eyes assessing, but not unkind. Monica felt suddenly conscious of her rumpled clothes, her tear-stained face, the blanket still draped over her shoulders. "I just did what anyone would do," Monica said. "No," Andrea corrected gently. "You did what almost no one would do. You saved a man who'd been lying to you, who'd put you in danger, and then you did something even harder. You told the truth, even when it meant he'd face consequences." She gestured to the chairs. "May we sit? I'd like to talk to you about something." They sat, Agent Torres hovering nearby but giving them space. Andrea folded her hands in her lap, her expression thoughtful. "I left Boston 15 years ago because I couldn't stand to watch what Vincent was becoming," she said. "Our father was a brilliant businessman, but a terrible man. Vincent idolized him, wanted to be just like him. I tried to tell him there were other ways to be successful, other kinds of legacy worth building. He wouldn't listen." She smiled sadly. "We haven't spoken in 3 years. I'd written him off as a lost cause." "He's not," Monica said impulsively. "He made terrible choices, but he was trying to fix them. He documented everything, built a case against Sterling. He was trying to be better. I know. The FBI agent briefed me." Andrea's gaze sharpened. "My brother is going to need a good lawyer. More than that, he's going to need someone who believes he's capable of redemption. Someone who's seen both the worst of him and whatever good remains. Ms. Reeves, I'd like to offer you a job." Monica blinked. "I'm sorry?" "I run a foundation in San Diego. We fund educational programs for underprivileged children. It's meaningful work, well-paid, and completely above board. I could use someone with your skills, your integrity, and your ability to stay calm under pressure." Andrea leaned forward. "I know tonight was traumatic. I know you probably never want to see anyone named Crawford again, but if you're interested, the position is yours." It was tempting. A fresh start. Meaningful work. Escape from the scandal that was about to engulf Crawford Industries. But Monica thought about her mother, still living in their small apartment in Dorchester. She thought about Jamie, her best friend since high school. She thought about Boston, messy and complicated, and home. "That's incredibly generous," Monica said carefully, "but I don't think I'm ready to leave Boston. This is my city. These are my people. And I think," she took a breath, "I think I need to see this through. Testify at the trials, make sure justice is done. I can't run away from this." Andrea smiled, and it transformed her face. "Vincent said you were remarkable. I'm beginning to see why." She pulled a business card from her purse. "The offer stands, whenever you're ready. And Ms. Reeves, thank you for saving my brother's life. Whatever he's done, whatever he faces, I'm glad he's alive to face it." After Andrea left, Monica found herself alone in the waiting room, the adrenaline finally wearing off completely. She was exhausted, emotionally wrung out, and facing an uncertain future. Crawford Industries would implode under the weight of the scandal. Her job was almost certainly gone. Her name would be in every newspaper in the city. But she'd done the right thing. She'd saved a life and exposed corruption. She'd been terrified and brave and maybe a little bit heroic, even if she didn't feel like it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jamie. "You're all over the news. They're calling you the whistleblower assistant who took down Boston's biggest corruption ring. Also, my firm wants to hire you immediately. Partner just called me. Apparently integrity is very marketable. Call me when you can. Love you." Monica laughed, a slightly hysterical sound that drew concerned looks from the nearby nurses. She texted back. Love you too. Home soon. She stood, intending to head home, when she saw Patricia Donnelly approaching. The older woman looked exhausted but satisfied. The board voted remotely an hour ago, Patricia said. Crawford Industries is going into receivership while the legal situation sorts itself out. I've been appointed interim CEO. She held Monica's gaze. We're going to need an army of lawyers, accountants, and investigators to untangle this mess. We're also going to need people who understand how the company actually functions, who know where the bodies are buried, metaphorically speaking. I'd like you to stay on, if you're willing. Different role, better title, significant raise. You'd be working directly with me to clean up this disaster. Monica thought about it for maybe 3 seconds. When do I start? Monday. Take the weekend to rest. You've earned it. Patricia's expression softened. What you did tonight took courage, Ms. Reeves. Real courage. Not everyone would have made the choices you made. After Patricia left, Monica finally made her way to her car, still parked exactly where she'd left it hours ago. It felt like a lifetime had passed since she'd carried Vincent's unconscious body to this car, since she'd been just an executive assistant trying to do her job. She sat in the driver's seat for a moment, watching the sunrise paint the Boston skyline in shades of gold and pink. Somewhere in the city, Richard Sterling was in federal custody. Thomas Whitman was in a hospital bed under guard, his daughter's medical bills about to be covered by a federal whistleblower fund. Vincent Crawford was alive, facing justice but also facing the possibility of redemption, and Monica Reeves, the girl from Dorchester who'd put herself through community college on scholarships and grit, was about to help rebuild one of Boston's largest companies from the ground up. Her phone rang one more time, an unknown number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Ms. Reeves? An unfamiliar voice, male and professional. This is Marcus Webb from the Boston Globe. I'm hoping you'll consider giving us an exclusive interview about tonight's events. The city deserves to hear your story. Monica looked at the sunrise, at the city spread out before her, complicated, messy, corrupt in places, but also beautiful and full of possibility. Her city. Her story. Mr. Webb, she said, let me get some sleep first, then we'll talk. She hung up, started her car, and drove toward home. There would be trials and testimony, interviews and investigations. There would be hard questions and harder answers. But for now, as the sun rose over Boston and the city woke to news of the corruption scandal, Monica Reeves allowed herself to feel something she hadn't felt in a very long time: hope. She'd carried her unconscious billionaire boss to safety and had him arrested the next morning. She'd exposed corruption, saved a life, and maybe, just maybe, helped set a broken man on the path to redemption. It wasn't the ending she'd expected when she'd gone to work yesterday morning. But as she pulled into her apartment parking lot and saw her mother waiting on the front steps, arms open wide, Monica realized it was exactly the ending she needed. Sometimes doing the right thing meant betraying the people who trusted you. Sometimes it meant risking everything, and sometimes, if you were very lucky, it meant discovering that you were stronger, braver, and more capable than you'd ever imagined. Monica Reeves had discovered all of that in one impossible night. And as she fell into her mother's embrace, tears finally flowing freely, she knew that whatever came next, she would face it the same way she'd faced everything else, with integrity, courage, and an unwavering commitment to doing what was right, no matter the cost. The story wasn't over. Vincent would face trial, Sterling would be prosecuted, and Crawford Industries would spend years rebuilding its reputation. But Monica's part in the immediate crisis was done. She'd saved a life, exposed the truth, and changed her own story forever. And really, what more could anyone ask for from one extraordinary night in Boston?